22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. When we open our eyes today and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it. 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 And are not afraid to say it.
And are not afraid to say it. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You are tuned into Black Westchester Presents, the People Before Politics radio show. We are on every Sunday, 6 to 8, streaming live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. I don't know if y'all saw, and I posted it on Black Westchester last Monday. I think that was around the 24th or so. I was invited to guest host on the Culturally Lit show, celebrating Reggie Lafayette. And today we decided to do a part 2, and I invited the host of the Culturally Lit show to be my lovely co-host for the night, Aleida. How are you?
How are you?
I'm good. So
thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. I figured, there was so much more we wanted to say. And there was other people who wanted to call in, and out of that hour on VOX, you get like maybe 39 minutes, 38 and a half minutes.
That's right.
Like that. So I figured, we can do the show here. We continue it on and celebrate. They just had his home going. They had a viewing at Macedonia. Then they had the lay in state, like they do in Congress at City Hall. And
that's right.
If my research is correct, he was only the second person ever in Mount Vernon history to lay in state in City Hall. So that's a big deal. And then they had the funeral yesterday morning at Macedonia. I ran around all weekend. I finally got the issue done. We dedicated the entire issue to him. Nice. I dropped off a bunch of copies at City Hall and at Macedonia. Hopefully people were able to get it. And of course, with the storm, I didn't hit everywhere. Hit a little bit in New Rochelle, hit Food Town, Food Bazaar, Mount Vernon Police Department, library. I don't think the library's open. The hospital, a couple of other spots, Democratic headquarters. I dropped off a stack or two there. So if you can't find it, let me know. If you're looking for a copy, of course, wherever you are, if you come to Mount Vernon, I have plenty of copies here. So
yeah, congratulations to you on that. I know that was a lot of hard work, and you were already in the middle of getting ready to publish. Another edition.
Yeah, we had a different cover, which I share on page 3. And the issue was ready. I was finishing up the issue that Friday and Saturday to send it to the printer that Monday. And then we got the news Saturday morning. Yeah. And then Damon and I thought about it, and Damon created the cover. And then I reached out to everybody that I could to get quotes from elected officials and Democratic leaders throughout the state, throughout the county. And then, a couple of picture pages, and shout to County Executive George Latimer, who gave me a rare picture of the two of them in spring of 1978 when
That's crazy that he still had that photo, man.
Yeah, he shared it on his Facebook page too. And it's I think he owned the team and Reggie was the coach. And you see Reggie with his little afro and his glasses, and you see George Latimer with a full head of hair. With definitely
it was Billy D. Williams and John Travolta.
Something like that, yeah. Something like that, absolutely. So yeah, and they got that in there. And there was so many other people. There was a couple of people that sent in quotes and stuff afterwards. I had already sent it to the printer. Then I wanted to get it out Thursday. We got it Friday. We just beat the storm, got it as many places as we could. And yeah, it was some work. Yes.
Yes, yeah. So definitely congratulations.
Yeah, of course I dropped off some stacks at WVOX. So if you don't have a copy of Aleida, you'll see it tomorrow. If you didn't get a copy yet,
that's right.
I know Ernie has a show tomorrow. Ernie will see it tomorrow if he didn't see a copy yet. So yeah, so and I just wanted to do a show. So I had to have you back on. You had me on Monday. I had to have you on so we could continue the conversation.
Yeah, so we the lane and state of Reggie Lafayette, I believe, was Ernie Davis's suggestion, and that's how all that started. I think one of the things that you continuously remember throughout this whole process is how often we don't really celebrate or show love to people while they're alive, and how quickly we can put aside, the childish things so that we can remember the good stuff, after someone passes away. So if anything, I think that we learn from this that it's really good to really honor and show love to the people that are, especially in public service, who are fighting for us and put in the time, and that we show them a little bit respect and honor while they're alive, and also after they pass, as they've done with Reggie Lafayette by lane and state. So kudos to Sean Howard also for making it possible, and the city council for making that possible, because it was really not a lot of time to make all this happen. And also Sarafa Khan, who was pretty much organizing the whole thing. And, they were like Bonnie and Clyde. So she kind of, she lost her brother. So
right.
This hasn't been an easy thing. And after seeing I didn't actually go to the funeral. I watched it online, and it's a bittersweet, right? It's very touching. I saw Ken Jenkins, right, deputy county executive, was all choked up, talking about the 40 years of how long he's known Reggie, and that he signed his wedding certificate. I believe at the time he must have been the clerk. Or I'm not sure what position he held at the time, but he said, you know what, Reggie signed my marriage certificate, or his name was on it. And this was 40 years ago.
Wow.
And, he could barely speak as he, spoke about their relationship. So it was very touching. Diane Atkins also spoke, and that was very touching. She said, she will never forget Reggie Lafayette, and that we shouldn't either. And I suspect that many of us won't. He impacted so many people. And it's only after you're gone, really, that you hear a lot about how your life impacted others, right?
Right. And I just wanted to say, I know he was retiring this year, and this would have been the type of thing we did to celebrate while he was alive after retirement. You know what I'm saying? But if you learned anything else, nobody's promised tomorrow. So, I wrote a little quote in here too. And I just wanted Reggie was a wealth of knowledge. Even when we were on opposing sides of an issue or a candidate, when I contacted him for clarification on a particular procedure, he was always willing to share that knowledge. I've learned much of what I know about the political process from him. His voice, his presence will be greatly missed. We didn't always see eye to eye. I was often a critic, but always had respect for Reggie, and he could verbally spar with the best of them. My condolences to his family, his friends, his colleagues, and all who love Mr. Lafayette. He was a political griot, sharing the history with the next generation. His legacy lives on in all of us. What we do with it now is up to all of us.
That's right.
I just wanted to read that. And you know, it's just amazing. Hey, Gail sent me something to read. I didn't know if she wanted to be on the screen. Gail, do you want to be on screen? If so, give me a thumbs up. If not, I won't put you on the screen. Yes, no? Do you want to be? Yes? Okay. Our first caller is Gail Baxter, longtime advocate in Yonkers and former Yonkers president of the NAACP. Gail, how are you?
I'm doing better, thank you. It's not pleasant to have a illness that keeps you on your toes. But right. I did, as I said to you in my personal text to you, Reggie and I didn't interact except on an issue. I walked away mad. He walked away mad. Saw him the next time, another issue. I walked him away mad. We bonded 2 summers ago when we learned that our ancestors were from South Carolina. Wow. And that I don't know if anybody noticed Reggie's way of speaking.
Mm-hmm. We did.
And you wondered, that's the sound of a Geechee. He sounded exactly like my father. Exactly. Wow. So we had said we were going to go back because, you know, there's a plantation where there's a whole nother conversation around there, which I believe my father was part of that plantation. And Reggie thought he had some relatives there. So historically, we're going to trudge down there and check it out. But I'm sorry to see. I'm sorry.
I said, that's amazing that you were able to actually connect and figure that out, that you guys came from the same area.
Well, you know, he was talking to me with a beer in his hand, and I asked him immediately because I had never been that up close with him. Usually discussions were over the phone. I said, "Where are you from?" Because Geechees sound a lot like Caribbeans. And there's a certain twang to their voice. But I hope to get better because I definitely want to get down and review the library. So much. Thank you, AJ. I love this show. And I'm sorry everybody lost a best friend. I mean, it was gut-wrenching to hear people say how much Reggie meant to them. He was a nice man. Funny, yes. A nice man. And that's all I can say. And I'm so grateful that he passed through my life.
Mm-hmm. So, while you're on, before you go, you sent me, because I didn't know if you were going to be on, you actually sent me, you said, you know, you weren't really doing that good, but you said, can I read a prayer that you wrote?
Yeah, and, well, I'm here. I could do it.
Okay, you can do it. I was going to do it, but you can do it. Yeah, you can do it.
Okay, please excuse my appearance.
No problem.
Servant of God, well done. The glorious warfare past. The battles fought, the races won. And thou art crowned at last. You know, I appreciate Reggie's service too. I didn't know how much it went. I know that he sought higher level positions in the Democratic organization, but I'm really glad that I got to know him for a bit, you know, and that's my prayer. Thank you, Reggie, for your service.
And thank you, Gail, for calling in. And we got to do lunch soon and catch up.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Should I hang up, or how do I get out of this? Help!
You just it'll say leave or something on your.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Got it.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
We have another caller from Yonkers, Sabomi McCauley. She is the president of the Westchester Black Women's Political Caucus. And she spoke she's actually the person who called me Saturday morning in tears. And she thought I knew, and she was like, AJ, I can't believe it. And I had no idea what she was talking about. I had slept late because I was working all night. And I probably went to sleep like a couple hours before that. She's like, AJ. And she thinks I know. And she's like, wait, do you know? How do you not know? And then she told me. And then, I verified it from several other sources. And, but she was the first one to tell me.
It was shocking news, man.
Yeah. So this is Sabomi McCauley from Yonkers. Hey, Sabomi.
Hey, AJ, thank you so much, my brother. I think of you as a brother, and we at the Westchester Black Women's Political Caucus, we are very saddened at the passing of Chairman Reggie Lafayette. On a personal note, when I ran for city council, I was sued, and I went into his office crying, and Reggie said, don't worry, I'll go to court with you. And he went to court with me, and I won the case. And since then, I developed a stronger relationship with him. Now, with regard to the Westchester Black Women's Political Caucus, we considered him a brother and a partner. I mean, there would be no Jamal Bowman or Mondier Jones without Reggie Lafayette. There would be no Very Shako without Reggie Lafayette. There would be no Tasha Diaz, Shanae Williams. Right. So we are so grateful to Reggie Lafayette for fighting to make sure that brown and Black people are represented at all levels of government, in the cities, the municipalities, the state, the county. And I was just in tears watching the funeral on Zoom yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to be there in person, but I was snowed in. And, I live in the city of hills, as you know.
Yes.
So I could not get out my driveway.
I don't know how y'all walk around Yonkers, boy. It's nothing. It's you. If you're going somewhere, you're walking uphill both ways, like the Yonkers.
So I tried from 6 a.m. I even had my snow guide come. It just kept falling, and my car wouldn't start. So I tried so hard to get to that funeral. And then I realized I was not going to make it. So I watched it on Zoom. I was just moved. And if you recall, I had called you and I was crying that day. Do you remember that?
Yes, that's what I said. That's how I found out.
Yeah.
That's how I found out. You're the one that let me know.
I mean,
you're the first person to call me.
There was nobody like Reggie Lafayette. Reggie was our big brother. Reggie was a friend. He would tell you the truth, even if it was not what you wanted to hear. And I respect that in a person. I respect that candor. I like people who give it to me straight. I don't like sugarcoated. And I like Reggie for that. So we will miss Reggie Lafayette. We will miss him. There will be no one like him. He was an icon. And the best part about Reggie, he was well dressed at all times.
Absolutely.
The man had swagger.
Okay? Very dapper. Very dapper. We thank you for calling in. We're going to go into the next caller. We got a bunch of people calling throughout the day.
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing your memories and your thoughts.
Thank you.
You have a blessed night. All right.
You too, my friend.
So we starting off the show with all Yonkers. The next person is, I saw that was a bit like, I saw your face real quick. I was like, the next is callers from Yonkers as well. Nicole Benjamin.
Oh.
Hey, Nicole.
Hi, Nicole.
Hi, AJ. Hi, Aleida.
How are you?
I'm well. I'm so glad that you both asked me to share a few words about Reggie, and to have the opportunity to lift up the legacy of a Black man. It is important. It's not enough. Too many people are stepping on the legacy of Black men, and I'm glad that you're allowing me the privilege to uplift his name. So I just want to give a few memories that I had of Reggie. So Absolutely. One of them was about 3 years ago, he took me to the Republican fundraiser, the county fundraiser they had. And Astorino was the guest speaker. And Astorino practically roasted Reggie throughout the whole speech event. And there were only about 3 Black people there. And it's just amazing to me how Reggie took the jokes and the hits At the end, he had a one-liner comeback, but the unspoken dynamic of how he commanded the room, that they knew that the power that he had. So that's one memory that I had of him. And as you said, he could spar with the best of them. So he allowed them. He allowed the whole room to come at him, and he laughed, and then he had a comeback at the end. The other memory I had of him was when I was president of Yonkers Women's Democratic Club, Aquahong. So I was the first Black president that they had. And I was asking Reggie, I said, please come, I need your support. At my fundraiser, Lieutenant Hochul was coming, and Jeannie Zino was my mistress of ceremonies. And he's like, oh, I'm busy. So when he finally, I looked up and he showed up, and my heart dropped because he knew that I needed his support, even though he didn't say it. He wasn't that type to actually admit that you needed his support. And he knew that as the most powerful Black political figure in Westchester, that a stamp of support from him meant something. And he got up on the mic and said, you know, this is the first Aquahong fundraiser I've ever been to where it's been sold out.
Wow.
And he knew that I was there among a room of critics. So Reggie always had his door open. Everybody said that. Made time for you whenever I was up in caucus weekend in Albany. Hey, come take a picture with me with Chuck Schumer. He opened doors for people and allowed his contacts to be your contacts. So as Reverend Morton gave the best eulogy, he said, don't look at the parts of the man, but the totality. Of the man. So God bless the memory of Reggie Lafayette, and thank you for allowing me to share my two favorite memories of Reggie.
Absolutely.
That was very nice, Nicole.
I love your hair.
Oh, thank you.
And I just wanted, before you go, the verbal sparring, and taking it, Damon and I were often very critical. We were critics. And, and there's always, you always say don't mess with somebody with a pen or a microphone, but he also commanded a microphone at every event. So every event that I was at, he took the playful shots right back. He gave them right back, But it was more playful than anything else, though. You know what I'm saying? It was never nothing malicious.
But, I would have to say that I would get into it with him, and I was serious, and I was upset, and I was angry, and then the next day he would just be like, "Hey, how you doing?" So you can get angry at him, and he can he can just listen to you and to your point of view, and he would have his comebacks, and then the next day it would be like, it's no hard feelings,
But he had strong opinions and strong convictions.
Yes.
And you're allowed to have your own strong.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's very rare in politics.
Yes.
For people to actually verbalize their strong opinions.
And still like you tomorrow.
And
the first thing Reggie Lafayette taught me, the very first thing in 2014 when we started Black Westchester, and we were at one of the court cases where they were challenging somebody or something. And he was like, yo, you'll come to learn that there are no permanent friends and permanent enemies in politics, only permanent interests. So we were on opposite sides of issues and candidates, but he picked up the phone every time I called. And, he always gave me, he always dropped jewels. He always dropped knowledge and shared it with me. I've learned a lot from him. But I thank you very much for calling in, Nicole. Appreciate you sharing your memory, and you have a blessed day.
Thanks for having me. Bye, Aleida.
Bye. Good to see you, Nicole.
Bye-bye.
So that's a few of the guests that are calling in. We have some more calling in later. I'm trying to stagger them. I have some guests like going to be in the 7 o'clock hour, like Andre Rainey's coming at 7, and a few other people. But I saw that you that was the most emotional call, that earlier call, and I saw it hit you when
I don't like funerals.
Yes, me either.
You know what? I'm not a very big event person anyway, but I certainly don't like that event, and saying goodbye is hard. I was saying when we were on my show on Monday, that I was glad that I didn't have anything like leftover hanging unaddressed or what have you, that I was able to be genuine in my thoughts, even if it was in opposition. and that I was able to address any concerns, and that I would say the only regret I had is I didn't go to his birthday before I left town. And I was gonna go, and I said, when I come back. Well, I came back, and he's gone. And everybody has kind of all those stories, which reminds you that we don't know when your time is up.
Nobody's promised tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that goes, I always say with this show and everything with the Black Westchester, I would say, I used to start off the show like I do every show, like it's my first. This is the 328th show we've done, and there's somebody who is going to watch it for the first time tonight. So no matter what you've done 300 shows ago, there's somebody watching for the first time. So
this is new to somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, you do it like it's your first show, and I do it like it's my last show, because nobody's promised tomorrow. I remember I used to do Christian hip hop, and I had a Christian hip hop publication in Atlanta. And I remember one of the artists said, what if you did a show, and then after that show, God told you He's bringing you home, and he said, if you knew that was your last show, you would have gave it your all. And you know what I'm saying? So now he did every show like that. There wasn't going to be no more shows. Yeah, and I grabbed onto that as well too. We have to not keep putting things off. I lost both my parents in the last 7 years. I lost my dad in September. My mom used to call me in the last few years and be like, yo, you need to call and check on me more because, I ain't going to be here all the time. I thought my mom was going to outlive all of us. I straight up never imagined. You know what I'm saying? But, I'm glad I came back home, which is why I came to start Black Westchester right after that in 2014. I got to spend her last few months with her. So that was a great thing. But the other thing is we need to tell our family and friends that we really love, that we love them. We need to let them know. Don't wait, like I'll tell them next time. Like, let people know that you love them. Like, you never know, like and sometimes not even it's the last day thing. Sometimes somebody's going through something real rough. You have no idea. My daughter's 32. And when she calls me every now and then and be like, yo, Dad, I don't really want none. I'm just calling to say I love you. Like, no matter what
it means a lot. Yeah.
No matter how stressed I was, yo, I'm like sticking out my chest. I'm feeling
you feel good.
Yeah, so let your people know that you love them.
For me, I mean, and that is important, but for me, it's like, when I started to hear more about what Reggie had done during his, he earned his position. He earned the stripes and the stars and the accolades that he got, right? He worked for it. He put in the time. And the more that you hear the stories of what he had done, you realize that how much he did for people, right? Whether it's making sure that if he knew that somebody was hiring, that they got work, and what that meant for that family. And so I say that to say that for me, saying I love you is good, and saying nice things is great. But also what you do is what you do, right? Because it's like, if I know that you stand to benefit from someone that I know, then hey, AJ, I'm gonna call you up. Hey, I could do this, or you could do that, or hey, I'm gonna tell you about something. It's like, why? Because it can mean something to you. So, how do you show love is not just in words, but it's like what you do, right? And what you do for people. It's not to say that you live for others. It's just that you don't hoard your success, or you don't hoard your opportunities that you share.
Should be in service of others.
Yes.
Should be in service. And I have to say that about Reggie. Every now and then I would get a call, and he would just alert me to something that could benefit people that the word need to get out about. It would be very short and sweet. And he'd say, and then I look it up and I get the information out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And most people even know it came from him, but he wanted to make sure the word got out,
Yeah.
And it needed to come out from, outlet like us. You know what I'm saying? To let people know there was either some jobs or a test coming up or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because, people get caught up, and it's like, you said something that I don't like, or I don't like you. And then, you needed something, or you could have benefited from some information you have. And just because you said something I don't like, then now you don't get that information. And, and it's like it gets so personal and you get caught up in the small things. So I think that's one thing we can remember is to not get caught up in the small things and actually,
Right.
show love in action. Love is an action word, right?
Right. One of the other ways, like a lot of people have said a lot of loving and kind words about Reggie. One of the best ways to honor his memory, there are going to be political disagreements. There are going to be oppositions and people that run against you and their supporters against the other supporters and all that. But even in one of the things I try my best to do, I'm human, so I don't always get it right, but I try my best to do at Black Westchester, is when there is an issue, I attack the issue and
not the person.
And that's the problem with our politics right now. We're attacking the person. Not just the person, their sister, their mother, their father, their family member. And you're making a permanent enemy over a temporary situation. And then you got to see that person in Stop and Shop or Home Depot like days later, like the election is over now. You know what I'm saying? Like we can learn to be more civil in our
it's almost like, I think what happens is, the less we know about the real issues, the less we can intelligently advocate for them. So we have no other option but to attack somebody's personal character. So, the more I see someone attack somebody's personal character, especially in public, the more I think that person really doesn't have, the emotional intelligence, or even the desire to care about like real issues. But this is a worldwide thing though. But specifically in the US, politics is so polarizing, right? Everybody's just really attacking individuals. So I agree with you. The best way to honor his memory is to still be able to talk to people and stick to the issues. Don't attack the person.
And I agree. It is a national thing. Sorry to cut you off. I agree it is a national thing, but I can do more with reaching the people locally. You know what I'm saying? Like,
everything is politics is all local.
Right. We need to affect this locally in the city of Mount Vernon, in the county of Westchester, and all the different municipalities. Because I'm gonna be honest, and one thing that I've seen since doing Black Westchester in 2014, every election has got uglier and dirtier.
Yeah.
Every election in 2014, 2015, the summer of 2015, I heard people say, this is the dirtiest, ugliest election ever.
And the next one will go to another level.
2017 went to another level. In 2019 got worse. 2021 got worse. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, we need to scale back a little bit. Like challenging people on issues is one thing, and being more informed. Like you have to, what you just said sometimes, like the same thing, like if you're having a verbal altercation with somebody and then that person wants to fight it because they have no more words to use. They have no, they can't combat. That's the only way they can fight you. So when you got to fight dirty, it's like, the more informed you are, like, let's deal with the issues. Let's debate. We have heated debate. Let's debate the issues, you know what I'm saying, and get to the square root of the problem. And then we have to be after you do that, how do we solve this problem? Now we've agreed that there is a problem.
How do we become solution based?
Solution based. You know what I'm saying? And it's like until we get like that, these elections are going to get worse. Yeah. And I fear where it could go with the political climate out there nationally and locally.
Listen. It's scary because the dirtier politics gets, I think there's been always the element of dirty politics. I think that what it is now it's on Front Street, right? It's like you see it live and everything seems to be public. So it deters people that really want to do good to get involved and run. So I kudos to the people that actually can get up and run during these times, right? But it really deters a lot of good people from doing, wanting to do public service.
You know how many times I've talked to, first off, Ken Bright, shout out to Ken Bright. He said, as long as their personal interests or cliquish interests, it will continue to be dirtier, which can bleed into criminal. And that's exactly where I was going with it. Shout to Donna Jackson, who said people are starting to call it out more. And that's what we have to do. Like, you know, we're not going to settle for it anymore. You know what I'm saying? We got to call out those who do that. Like, you know, so.
And really, I think, you know, practicing, you know, I think what would be important in schools, whether in high school or college, is to really have that class on conflict resolution and ways to communicate that you can redirect a conversation to, like, what is it that we really want to see? I mean, not to see you die or obliterated or see you destroyed, or, you know, but what is the world that we want to see? Like, what, you know, how do we want to live in Mount Vernon? What is it that we want to see? Can we focus on the discussions and the back and forth on how we get there? Right? And who has the best idea on how we get there? You know, what do we want to see? How do we want to see our kids live? You know, our kids want to feel safe walking down the street. Our kids want to feel safe in schools. Our kids want to, you know, aspire to be somebody. Who is that somebody they want to be in our community? What is the example that we want to be? Do we want to how do we want our community to look like, you know? And so you know, Donna Jackson, she says, I would love to do mediation training, especially for the youth. Absolutely. Because it's like, you know, even when you see debates and there's arguments and you're talking about politics, like when you talked about the attacking of the character, it's like, can I make a point on how I can bring this about and say, the way I see this happening is, you know, like now we're honoring Reggie Lafayette's legacy, and we'll say, you know what, the way we can honor his legacy is by continuing to really bring civics education and really focus on making sure that real civics education is given to people, young and old, and that it's available to everyone in the community, so that we really understand what the political process is like, so that we can make and say, hey, you know what, we can have a discussion, because we can say, this is not going the right way. Well, we don't know what the right way is because we're not educated on what the process is supposed to be like. And it shouldn't be just up to the schools. It should be available to us anywhere in the community centers, community colleges. So how the political process works and how do we communicate with each other without attacking each other?
Absolutely.
You know,
I want to, we have another person about to come in. I wanted to acknowledge Judge Yonkers City Court Judge Veris Shako. She had said, hey, AJ.
Oh, yes.
Earlier.
Hi, Veris.
I wanted to make sure I shouted her out. Our next call in is
sorry, AJ. I said Veris. Hello, Judge Shako.
Our next person who's going to speak about Reggie is Marianne Carr. She's the first vice chair of the Westchester Democratic Committee and the former Bedford Democratic Committee chair. Welcome to the show, Marianne. How are you?
Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you.
I love your hair too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You look beautiful.
And I mean, so do both of you.
So thank you for calling in. We're glad that you did. We are honoring the memory of Reginald Lafayette. And what is your best memory of him that you can share with us?
My best memory, I actually have more than just one memory. I served as the chair of the Bedford Democratic Committee, and as you know, the diversity on that committee was not what it needed to be, and certainly I reached out to Reggie on all the time regarding just committee rules and guidance and advice on, how to conduct the meetings, the election laws, as it relates to votes, weighted votes versus non-weighted votes, district leaders' responsibilities. So I have a lot of memories, and just sometimes just calling him for plain, simple advice as a candidate, because not only have I been the chair of the committee, I was also a candidate. And, Reggie has had a tremendous influence in shaping the landscape of the Westchester County and New York State as a whole.
Absolutely.
So, and he was direct, he could be, he could give you some hard truth. And that is what I appreciated about him, because sometimes it wasn't always what you wanted to hear, but it was what you needed to know.
Yes.
And so to me, he was someone that I looked up to in terms of his trailblazing ways, to think that he pulled himself up by his own bootstrap.
Mm-hmm.
There was no mentor before him.
That's right.
That could mentor him. Mm-hmm. So he just, set the path for so many of us, like myself, because not only did I go on and serve as town council person in Bedford as the first African-American on that town board, but I also went on to serve as the supervisor. And none of that would have been possible without the groundwork that Reggie had put in, years before I ever considered running for office.
Well, it's funny. Every time his name was mentioned on the show, he would get a call. So when y'all were running for the election for, Westchester County chair and vice chair and all that, you said some fond words about him. And I got a call from Reggie the next day. Yeah, I heard my name was mentioned on the show. I heard Marianne Carr had some good stuff to say about me. And I sent him the link of what you said, because I edited that part. And so he always called. He always, that's the last time he called about a comment on the show, was from you.
Yeah, I mean, I truly admired him. And I did call him. My last conversation with him was late December of last year. Because I was looking at, what my next possible, endeavors might be in the political arena. And no one had their pulse on the community and on the county more than Reggie Lafayette. And so we talked about some of the things that were possibilities and some of the things that I might consider. And I valued his opinion. I mean, really, Reggie was not someone who was concerned or feared what people thought about him. Mm-hmm. So he was in a place where he was confident and secure within himself, and he spoke his mind.
Yeah.
One of our listeners, Latanya Baptiste Young, said Reggie had influence everywhere. Rockland County recognized him as a force to be reckoned with. Great leader, great leader.
Yeah. What would you say, Marianne? What would you say? Because Reggie was in service for over 40 some odd years, and I don't know that we can. You know how you look at somebody or something and say, "Oh, that won't happen again," or "You will never see that again," or is there anything within Reggie that we could say, well, that's not duplicatable. We will never see that again in terms of his work and political work, because we seem to be heading in a different direction and a less collaborative approach in politics, So I'm curious if you see anything that Reggie did that you say, hey, we probably won't see that people do that again.
Well, I can say that Reggie had a force for unifying. He was dedicated to his party. And sometimes we are not as dedicated and committed to the party. Mm-hmm. But Reggie was a true liberal Democrat. And he stood in his truth with those convictions about what his values were. And sometimes I worry about us diluting that and working against one another for the sake of, trying to jump ahead or trying to, because I feel like that happened in Bedford, and I don't want to go into that because we're here to memorialize Reggie. But it's, Reggie was one of a kind, and there won't be another Reggie because of his leadership style. He was eloquent, yet he was brassy. He could tell you off, and then he would tell you, but I love you. We're still all we got. We need to stick together because, you know, if we don't stick together as a party, we don't stick together as a people, you know, who else is there for us? And so
the commitment to the party is not there. We see more individualism, or I don't know if you want to call it individualism, but you know, it's like, well, I'm independent. I'm not Republican. I'm not Democrat. I'm just not even independent. People don't want to be affiliated, or people have lost the faith in what the party, a party can do.
They're more opportunists. You know, it's like,
Yes.
what's in it for
There you
me
go.
versus what's in it for,
there you go.
for the people. You know,
Yeah.
we're here as service to the people. But it's more about sometimes your own
Personal
titles
agenda.
and power and prestige that they think comes along with it. But it's first and foremost about service.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I think, I just don't think Reggie is repeatable. He was a one of a kind. He could, you know, go to the, you know, courts in Mount Vernon and Yonkers. And yet he could go to the states rooms and be with the dignitaries. He was comfortable in all those settings. And you don't find a person so comfortable like that, going from, you know, one level to the next level, in and out, with great ease, and having the respect.
Yes.
Having the respect of the community, of those dignitaries who probably had way more years of academic than Reggie did,
right?
But you would never know
it. Respected in every neighborhood, right? Because he even, and to stay living on the south side of Mount Vernon for all these years, and he can go in with the same suit. He would go in those statesman meetings and come down to the south side and be respected equally. So I think you're right. I think there's only one like him, and he's one of a kind.
And, you know, we need leaders. I mean, our democracy right now is, you know, at a, you know, kind of a very pivotal point where, you know, we're about to lose it in some ways. You know, God forbid, if the elections don't go the way we need them to go when the next presidential election, there's a lot at stake here.
There is.
Wait, real quick, I'm glad you said that, and I'm going to put you on the spot. Yes, we need leaders, and you need to keep running. We need leaders. We need leaders like you. I've been putting you on the spot real quick. That's all. Go ahead.
Thank you, AJ. That is definitely putting me on the spot, but I don't mind. I've been put on the spot before.
I think, you know, you're talking about democracy and the potential of losing our democracy, and I think I was mentioning earlier before you came on is how I believe in Reggie's memory, we should be more intentional about educating the general public on the process and the political process, and be more make it more available for people to engage, or make it easier for people to engage by the educating how, because every local town is different, you know, how it operates. So I could move from Mount Vernon to Bedford, or I can move to Scarsdale or some other town, and I have to relearn on how the local towns work. And so if you move from one town to another, you don't easily understand what's going on. Like, okay, so how, and not everybody's welcoming and ready to show you or teach you or how that is. So I think, you know, we don't talk enough about redistricting, what's happening with the redistricting right now, and all the things that are happening politically. I guess outside of the political pockets, we don't, you know, the community doesn't really hear a lot about that. Do you feel that we're giving enough education and civics education to the community?
Absolutely not. We are really just not doing well at all at educating people about the political process and about civic and just history, American history in general. You know,
that's in danger right now. They're trying to whitewash history right now.
That's right. You know, people, you know, they want to make up this story about critical race theory. And I said, well, critical race theory is really actual American history. And so, I mean, there's no such thing as critical race theory curriculum. But if you want to look at it and associate something to it, it's the actual history that took place that is quite, uncomfortable to talk about, especially among, people that are not of the diverse community, but it's the reality.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that we had a lot of elected officials before the Reconstruction. After the Reconstruction, then all of that they were run out of office.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, go ahead.
I have a lot of other people calling. I want you
Okay.
last words, and we're going to get into the next one. Any last words about Reggie that you want to throw in there? And it's always a pleasure, and you are always welcome on our show.
Thank you. Well, I just want to send my deepest condolences to the family. We miss Reggie, and it's going to take us some time to get over his physical presence not being with us, because he was someone who was just bigger than life in terms of his presence. And so I will miss him. I will miss his presence. I will miss being able to pick up the phone and call him, to run something past him, to get his perspective on things, because he's, had just a well-rounded experiences. So I'm not going to take up any more time, because I know you have other people that are waiting, but thank you for allowing me to come on tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for
You're
calling.
Welcome. All right. We have two others in the waiting. I'm not sure if Reverend Morton is ready. I don't see his camera on. There he goes. We have Dr. Darren Morton, who the funeral was at his church, and he gave a great eulogy. And he is our new Mount Vernon comptroller. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I have to say, so let me just say this for the record. I did not watch the funeral. I just buried my dad in September, and then my best friend died 94 days later, and I just couldn't do another funeral. But I heard, the one thing I heard from everybody was about your eulogy. I heard about what certain people said, and then I heard about your eulogy. So I definitely wanted to make that comment.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So what memories would you like to share of Mr. Lafayette?
Oh, okay. So my memories of Reggie actually, I guess in comparison to so many that you probably would talk to, actually are much more recent, right? I mean, they've been within the last. I've known Reggie casually because he is my Masonic brother for many years, but most recently, in the last decade, is where I've really gotten to know Reggie as the political influencer that he was. And I guess my most recent memory is when I did decide to run for comptroller of the city of Mount Vernon, and Reggie was one of those first people that I called to say, "Here, listen, this is what I'm planning to do. This is what I would like to do. What are your thoughts on that?" And Reggie always will give you kind of the pluses and the minuses of it. And so one of the things is that he definitely said to me is that, can I do it? Absolutely. Does he think, he said, I think that you could win? Absolutely. The question is are you ready for what it all is going to bring with it? And not just you, but also those people that are closest to you. And he said, namely, the folks that are at the church, because you are a pastor. And I said, yeah, that's my biggest concern about it. So we talked through that. I think that for me, the most important thing is how Reggie did have this really broad perspective, right? And he carried history that came from people like David Ford, folks before him that could also help to give some kind of context to it. So for me, that was enriching. And I think that that's the parts that I think we all will go away from it with for a legacy of Reggie. We could get caught up. I think, as I said yesterday in the eulogy, you can get caught up in the individual parts of people's legacy and try to make those most important. But the reality is what's the totality of all of that? Because all our legacies will push and pull on each other, the parts of them rather. and then it's a matter of the whole. So I'm so grateful just to be able to have learned a lot about this process as a newbie in the elected realm.
Now, go ahead, Aleida. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was. You mentioned. I was going to say, and bring that up from your eulogy that you mentioned, not to focus on the part of a man, but the totality of a man. And I was thinking, as while people are living, and um, while they're living, and while you're around them, how do you focus on the totality of a person, especially in politics, when it's an individual sport? And you know what I mean? I don't know if I'm making any sense.
No,
What have you done lately, or what have you done lately, kind of thing. Sometimes too.
Yeah, I get it. I think, to be honest, that's the hardest part, right? Because we have become such temporal people, right? Everything is about what is happening right now. And we've also become this, the social media grab information that oftentimes is misinformation or disinformation, but it's believable, right? At that very moment. We've got to retrain ourselves. I mean, we've got to start to retrain ourselves on how we think, critically think about the information that we receive. But also, one of the pieces that's probably most important for us now, and I say us now because I'm part of it, right? Elected officials, is how do we begin to rebuild the trust in the people to give us that kind of benefit of the doubt at that moment, to recognize that it is kind of a process, right? Because, and I say it all the time with this whole finance thing of Mount Vernon, people need to know this is going to be a marathon. It's not going to be a sprint. And so there's going to be some short wins. There's going to be some short losses. And in the end, we are hoping for a long home run win, right? That's the process that we're going to have to go through.
And I just want to say for the record, so I have not got a chance. I had to redo this whole issue. That's one of the reasons. I haven't had a chance to actually physically call you. Now I can ask you this question because I was going to call you and ask you this question. I wanted to definitely give you a chance to speak as the controller, but I didn't know if you wanted to speak now, if you wanted to speak after 90 days, if you wanted to. I wanted to give you the opportunity. When would be best for me to have you on the show to give an overall for your job?
Yeah, I think that, I can give you some general information now is that, but it won't be as rich as it will be after 60 or 90 days, I guess it is, because I am digging out a lot of information, working with also some of our partners, like our external auditors, to try to get at least the 16 audit complete. But what I've also stumbled across, or actually discovered, is that there's not a lot of information that is even in our accounting system right now, in which we're kind of in a rebuilding process, right? And so I immediately brought in an accountant who had been already familiar with the system to begin to kind of work on some of those immediate need things, because I could also bring in people who don't know the system, but it would take them longer to learn the system. And right now I need information, because what I'm trying to get my arms around is our cash position, right? And I can say that right now, as I've said, I think at the board estimates meeting, that we are in a weak cash position as far as I can see right now. But I'm still working through all of that. When your books are not, when your bank reconciliations are not complete, when the information in the accounting system does not have all of the information, including the adopted budget, the revenues, but you're only looking at kind of expenses, it's hard for you to really truly know. And even when you can look at a bank account and see how much money is there, or bank accounts and see how much money is there, without the banking reconciliations, we don't know what still is outstanding, right? And of course, every day, there are people that are calling about the bills that they have not been paid, right? And so now it's a matter of organizing what are most priority in order to ensure that The business of Mount Vernon continues because we don't want to be in the public and hear that we don't have any oil, right? And so we got to prioritize those things in order to make sure that we're able to kind of move forward. And so that's what's happening right now, right?
Right. So I just wanted to, and I don't want to even, because we can go into, there's a lot, but I wanted to, because I said it on the air and then I'm saying it to you and I just want to say it publicly. So I definitely want to get you on for a thorough conversation on this. 60, 90 days, and we'll talk on the phone to see which is better, and when you feel like you can give a full, because people want to hear that. So but I had you here, so I just wanted to say that to you now.
No,
any last words on Reggie, and then we're going to go to some of
the I think that, of course, as your previous guest has said, it's a true void for us in our not only political but also our civic our civic environment. And so we pray that now, as I said yesterday, that folks will begin to pick up the mantle and realize that we've now got to chart the course forward. And so, I want to, again, extend my condolences to the family again, and also to those who also worked with him every day and through it, because it's a loss to not have that kind of rich knowledge with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time, and we will be in touch and talk to you soon.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye. Before I go, we're gonna bring Brenda Crump in to say a few words. But Ken Bright said, who is up for his position? I guess it's the Mount Vernon. I believe you're talking about it's the Mount Vernon committee.
You're talking. He's talking about Reginald Lafayette, or is he talking about Morton?
No, that's what he's talking about. He's talking about Reggie. And Donna said it should be Tajon. And I've heard other people say that as well. I do want to say, though, one of the things I'm looking into, because I don't know the process, what the process is for the Mount Vernon City Democratic Committee and what the process is for the Board of Election. Does the number 2 person step up now, or do they have a special election, or do the district leaders vote on that? I'm in the process of trying to figure that out because I honestly don't know. But yeah, that's who Ken Bright, because that's been a comment.
But which position is he talking about? I
believe he's talking about Mount Vernon, the Mount Vernon City Committee. But I was just saying personally, I've been getting calls for both of them, and I don't know how that works. And that's one of the things I want to look into, because I want to be. People think I know a lot. I learn from every story I do, so I will be learning, because we never lost a leader in the middle of their term before. While I've been doing this, so I actually don't know. We're going to bring in Brenda Crump to say a few words briefly. Hello, Brenda. How are you?
Hi, I'm well, thank you. Can you hear me? I don't know if I'm doing this correctly.
Yes, we hear you perfect.
You sound loud and clear.
Are you on your phone? Do you have more than one thing on? I feel like an echo.
I'm on my phone.
Maybe you want to turn the volume down a little bit?
Yeah, just turn it down. Maybe turn it down. Yeah.
Okay, how's that?
That's
Great.
better. There you go.
Okay, but I can barely hear you though, but all right.
Okay. I'll try to speak louder. No.
All right.
So I know you said you wanted to say a few words about Reggie. So what were your memories or thoughts or comments?
So I didn't have a personal relationship with him, as I've heard many others when they spoke, or personal or that type of a political relationship. But what I would like to share is that when I hear people say that he treated everyone the same, I can attest to that because, people know in the community, I do some live streaming to give the community information, and especially with some of the situations that were happening with Mount Vernon and some of the elections with our former Mayor Ernie Davis and our former Mayor Thomas. I did some coverage at some of the court cases and so forth. And I don't have press credentials, but Commissioner Lafayette treated me the same way as he would have, or as he did treat the press that did have credentials. So I remember one specific case is when Mayor Davis was challenging some of the votes. And so I work, at the Board of Elections, or either I work at the schools during some of the elections. So I remember, the black bag, the black bag, blue bag, purple bag, orange bag, and green bag. But with Mayor Thomas, let me go back to him. Mayor Thomas, there was an issue of a red bag. And I'm like, red bag? What red bag? So I,
so can you for us laypersons, can you briefly break down what the hell are the different colors with the bags? What that mean? Like, okay. It means so like as far as I know, you had a bunch of different pocketbooks every day. What does that mean?
All right. No. So you had the different color bags, which represent where you put spoiled ballots. When we pulled in the blue bag, that had all of the content information in it that we needed in order to do the elections. And then you have the orange bag, and once again, these different bags. Green bag is where our opening tapes and all that kind of stuff was in for the machine, the key. So you had these different color bags, which held different content, or either we were to put different content inside of those bags. So that's what I mean by all these different color bags. Okay. So when I'm in court, I see the people who represented the county pull in this blue bag. I really didn't know that they kept all that stuff. They keep every single piece of paper and they pull out. And I was just amazed and astonished. But the red bag that he was talking about, I'm like, what red bag? I've never seen or heard about a red bag. But that's something that takes place at the Board of Elections once everything get there, and what all that they do, the staff behind the scenes. But when I spoke to Commissioner Lafayette about it, he answered the questions, and he didn't have to. And during the court case with Mayor Davis, I really didn't know that the county kept like your signature card. I mean, they have everything. When you move, when you update your stuff, they keep a lot of information, y'all. So don't be trying to do any funny business for my better grammar. So even with that, just sitting there in that court case and hearing them and watching them pull out certain documents and say back in 2 years, 5, 18 years ago, they're talking about stuff that people did in your signature and when you moved and comparing signatures. I was like, wow. So afterwards, when you go to the Board of Elections, you get on the computer, some of this information and stuff is there. And I wasn't aware of that. So I spoke to the commissioner, and he had no challenges with after court. I went to the Board of Elections, and he took me over to the computer. He logged in information, my stuff, and showed me what they were talking about in court. And, he had a few other things to say that I won't, necessarily share about the case. But, I mean, he just had me hysterically laughing, and I didn't know that they kept all that information. But the bottom line of it was, and then he also allowed me to interview him as a part of my live stream and to update the community on what took place in court, and then actually the stuff that he was showing me. So I just thought that, I wanted to share that, because that was, as people said, he treated everyone the same. And I don't have press credentials, but with me going and doing some live coverage for the community, he treated me the same. And especially when News 12 or the other outlets interviewed anyone, you only get snippets of that. But I would be there and I would live stream their whole interview. So this way, the community and residents and other people could see. And I know that the people who were being interviewed, they really appreciated that, because now the entirety of what was said, not snippets, was viewed where other people could see it. So I just wanted to share that.
That was one of the main reasons we started Black Westchester. A lot of people don't know. Damon used to have, Damon's a walking press conference. He pulls out a podium. He had a press conference right there. And he got mad at News 12, and it was showing like 30-second clips of this big press conference. So he started recording the entirety of his press conference. And when we did stories and we did press conferences, we would show the entire video since 2014. So that's something that we did. Thank you for sharing that, especially breaking down the bags and the colors, because I didn't know what the heck you were talking about, I'm going to be honest. So, and I know if I didn't know, there was a whole bunch of other people that didn't know either. So, Aleida, any comments, questions for Brenda that you want? You're muted.
Sorry. I wanted to limit the feedback, but no, I wanted to reiterate that I think some people, not all, take for granted how important it is to see the whole story. As you said, the news only does the 10-second soundbite and then leaves out the rest of the story. And especially in our communities when we are starving for information and the proper information. It's like, we don't like how, and it is the reason why Facebook becomes such an important medium to communicate what's happening, is because we don't see it on TV. So kudos to you, by the way, that you can hold that camera or phone for that long, so we
I had to
could
get me a
hear
tripod.
the
I had
whole
to get-
thing.
I had to get a tripod. I couldn't hold that.
Listen, I don't care if it's a tripod or you standing on the ground or anything, or you're walking with, you have to stand there for that
Yeah.
long
Yeah.
so that we can watch everything from home. So that is, and to do it, out of the goodness of public information. So, hey, thank you.
Yeah, I just, you're welcome. And thank you for acknowledging that, because I just want the community to be fully informed, enlightened, educated, and empowered with knowledge that they can make good decisions, and they can know what's going on and not have snippets and edits of it, of what people want to feed you. And sometimes, the major media network, they feed us what they want us to know and not what they don't want us to know. So I want people to know the whole truth, the whole thing, and the questions and the answers and everything. So that's very important, like you said, very important. So
absolutely.
Have a good night. Thanks.
I want to thank, and on the way out, I want to thank you for all that you do. People don't know, she started doing this, and she would give me the video and the pictures because I couldn't be at all the cases. And I want to give her credit. Since we started this show in 2014, me and Damon would talk about something, and we like, yeah, they got a new book coming out or something. What's the name of that book? Next thing we know, we get a message from Brenda. It's the such and such and a link to the book. Like, she used to be our mistress of information. Me and Damon sounded like we knew everything. A lot of that was because of Brenda. So I just want to give her flowers while she's here. And thank you.
There you go.
And they smell nice. Thank you for those flowers.
And I noticed, AJ, it wasn't you.
What? Oh, the flowers? Oh, yeah.
I noticed it was her.
Yeah. No. She held us. She held us down. She definitely held us down. But thank you for your comments, and appreciate you for all that you do.
Well, you're welcome. And before I go, what Black Westchester does, People Before Politics, you need all hands in to help and assist, because what you do is getting out a lot of information to the community as well. And it's very important. And as you say, sometimes from the Black point of view, and that's very important. And lastly, you did an excellent job on the commemorative issue of Reginald Lafayette, and the cover page is just beautiful.
Yes.
So kudos to you, and thank you for taking the time out to do that.
Shout to Damon. Damon actually created the cover.
Okay, well,
thank you very much. Yeah,
you're welcome. Damon K. Jones, excellent job.
Indeed.
All right.
Have a good night.
Good night. Good night.
Bye.
Bye. We have a comment actually from Craig McFarland. He says, Brother Lafayette and I, Reggie and I, shared four families. We shared roots in our South Carolina. We traveled east. Fraternally, we belong to the Improvement Protection Order of the Elks of the World. And each of us respectively served as president, respectively, at branches of the NAACP. One of Reggie's greatest attributes, maybe mentioned, maybe not, was stewardship. Brother Craig Farland, former New York State Association director.
Civil.
Yeah, and then it got cut off. And then Brother James, let me, can you, are you watching this on LinkedIn? Send me a DM on LinkedIn. I'll send you the link, my brother. Yeah. So, I wanted to show, just like in the paper, I wanted to, like, I could have got on here, me, Damon, and Bob. Oh, shout to Damon. Damon's working. Shout to Bob. He classes start again tomorrow. He's a professor, so he's preparing for his lesson plan and trying to, do his due diligence to come in day one ready. so he was not on the show today, holding us down. But we could have just had a long conversation on and on between us all about what we thought of Reggie. But I wanted to, and the same thing, I could have just wrote a whole bunch of stuff about Reggie, but I wanted the people to hear from everybody. You know what I'm saying? Individually, what they thought, other people, what they thought. And, Aleida, say a few words real quick while I send this brother the link. Who wants the link?
The you were sending the brother that was talking about Reggie and stewardship.
Craig McFarland. He said condol, and he
Yeah.
also said condolences to the family and the village worldwide connected to him. We keep him all in our prayers.
That's who you're sending the link to?
No, another brother,
okay.
James Linkett. He asked how
Okay.
he could be a part of it. He's watching.
I wondered what he meant by stewardship. I know that
Well,
what I understand.
if Craig puts his email address up, I will email him a link if he wants to actually verbally say a few words.
Sure. So I believe that by stewardship he means a good caretaker of what it is entrusted in him. That's usually well, that's what I understand stewardship to mean. And certainly when I learned that Reggie Lafayette was a district leader in 1972, the year that I was born, that took me back. I was like, what?
Yeah.
I can't get over that. Because, I think he passed away still young. I think he could have, I'm sure many would have wanted him to live 20, 30 more years.
Absolutely.
But to be a district leader since 1972, the year I was born, and I'm feeling old, it's like, hey, I'm almost 50. And he was a district leader all that time. That is certainly being a good steward of that position and being in public service for that long. So I don't think any of us can say that we volunteered longer than 10 years, let alone 49.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Brother James, I just sent you the link, and Brother Craig, if you send me an email, I will send you the link if you actually want to come on screen. And Gina Jackson, Greenberg, town council, said thank you, AJ, and all for all you do. Flowers, appreciate that. And she called in, and she called in Monday to your show, Aleida, when we were on there.
Right.
She called in, yeah.
So I think I want to say, the funeral, the homegoing service, there's a lot of nice speeches also on the viewing, and when he was laying in state in City Hall, Hillary Clinton stopped by. Mimi Roca stopped by. All the judges were stopping by. I'm sure many more people, but while I was there, actually when I came, Hillary Clinton had just left, and then Mimi Roca stopped by to pay her respects. I was thinking that shouldn't we have that as a standard, that any public leader that has served for any length of time should lay in state and City Hall? That's a very respectful way to honor a public leader's legacy, right? Is to have them lay in state and City Hall, and people come and pay their respects. So that was very nice.
I thought that was great, and you had seen. You've seen a few congressmen like John Lewis. I think they did that for John Lewis and a couple of other people. So you saw that on the national level. And, I really wasn't deep into politics before Black Westchester, and it's definitely the first time.
Which is hard to believe.
Well, yeah, I learned a lot. The people like Reggie and Ernie and a few others, let's just put, they threw a lot at me. Like I had to go, like felt like I went to college and I got my degree like in that first year.
Right.
Basically.
A wealth of information.
Right. Yeah. And you learn, and I learned something with every story that I did, because you had to look up information and you had to check check it. People tell you stuff and you had to go where it was to check it. And then, you had to refer it and put links to it. And eventually some of that stuff just stayed there. You know what I'm saying? And then people about it. So that's how I learned. But in my time doing this was the first time that I had seen that on a local level, to the point that I honestly didn't know they did that on the local level. I thought that was just on the national level. And this is only the second time the city of Mount Vernon has done
it. Yeah, but I think it should be done.
I don't know how many times that's actually been done throughout the county of Westchester. You know what I'm saying?
Interesting. That'd be interesting. That'd be interesting to find out, because it should be something that's standard. And that we do.
Craig responded to you saying, Aleida, your definition is correct. Stewardship.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. I'm glad I understood what you meant. Well, he definitely was definitely a good sport. You know, I would often get annoyed and say, you know, we don't have enough civic education here. And then he would say, well, you know, that's what political science classes are for. And then I would say, yeah, but we need it here locally. And then he'd say, well, come to the office, you know. And you know, while not one person can do it all, I do see that he did, you know, provided a lot of education for people, you know, one-on-one as to how the political process worked and how he served as a mentor. And so with that, he really served as a good steward of the position that he was, you know, given.
And even and I said the first time we had that experience, so we were holding Mayor Ernie Davis' feet to the fire, and he was running the election, and we were supporting Richard Thomas at the time. And I think Sam Rivers had a lawsuit to try to get Ernie knocked off the ballot, saying that because he had pled guilty, he shouldn't even be being able to run. Mm-hmm. And actually, I don't know, he has some good legal points because he actually, Sam was making his points. And so he lumped all of us together. He called us Andre's crew or whatever, Andre's gang, whatever he called us. And so I was on the other side of it, and he was on the other side of it. But he saw me outside the courtroom before it started and asked me, is this the first time you're covering a case like this? And I said, actually, it is. And he said, I want you to pay attention to the word standing. This whole case is going to come down to standing. At the time, I did not know what that was. And then that word was thrown around a lot, and it was explained and all that. So what happened is Sam Rivers had the right case, but he had brought it to the wrong court. You know what I'm saying? And he didn't have the standing to bring it to that court, or that was being challenged. And even then, where again we would be looked at as adversarial. You know what I'm saying? Democratic Party definitely was looking at me adversarial. He took the time to stop to talk to me, to explain that to me. So then we're going down the elevator because the court case for Richard Thomas, whether he's going to make the ballot, is 2 floors down. And we're in the elevator together, and he goes, I said, yeah, you were right. He said, see, I told you. And then he dropped a couple more jewels, and then he walked to the left, I walked to the right. But, that was my first real interaction with him. You know what I'm saying? One-on-one.
I would, just like when you don't know all sides and you learn, it's, you don't know all that it takes to be leading a whole county and in the political process and all that, right? But you know that we're lacking more civics education, and you see it, and you're like, well, who do you turn to, right? You turn to that political leader that you may think could do something about it, right? And so we would often get into that back and forth, and I would say, you know what? It's like you put in such, like, you were important, and you are important for the time that you 40 years in public service and all that. Like, I think you mentioned something that, or I don't know if it was at the funeral or at the homegoing service, or you mentioned it on the show, where, Reggie was involved in the political process when, like, there was no Black or brown person working at City Hall. He was in public service when Black people couldn't do so many things, right? And so to have that perspective, I said, you should retire early and, like, let people honor you for all that you've done, and let's see more new people be trained to do what, and that was always my discussion, because I thought, how can we shift all that knowledge to a pipeline of education for the future leaders that are coming in? And everybody has their own way. His way was come into the office and come in and volunteer and become engaged, and that's how you learn. But I think in his honor, we should really create that pipeline of education, because I don't think we're gonna have very few people who have all that wealth of knowledge and be able to call it out so easily. And so we need to have the pipeline to educate people of the history, specifically for Black and Brown.
I
So
I was looking for the year. Diane, hey Diane, how you doing? Diane Atkins, to answer our question, said yes, the first vice chair moves up. The first vice chair is Tejan. Is that correct?
No.
No, who's the first vice chair for Mount Vernon?
I thought it was Mary something.
Okay, so whoever the first vice chair is, they move up for the Mount Vernon Democratic City Committee. That's how that goes. Will they just take over, or will there be a special election after that? No, Mary Graves. Okay, yes.
Mary,
thank you, Diane.
there you go.
So Mary Graves will be the new Mount Vernon City Democratic Committee chairman. And Diane, while chairperson, Diane, while you're there, does this just take place, or will there be a special election after, or she just fills that role? Is that see, again, this is how I find out things, Aleida. This is exactly how I find out.
This is the civics education. This is what I'm talking about. Civics education.
And we started out doing that a lot in the show. We would have people come by, just like I had Brenda break down those bags. People would come by and throw these phrases, and I'm like, slow down. And I was covering for the fact that I didn't know half of what they were talking about either. But I was I know my listeners don't understand. Like, break that down for my listeners so they will know. And some of the time, they were teaching me right there on the show at the time. And I also wanted to say, yo, lovely background. And I gotta step up my lighting game. I don't, because I'm like, yo,
That's just my wall back there.
Oh, okay. Well, your lighting game too. I gotta step my lighting game up.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure when the election takes place. Thank you, Diane. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So I believe it's like
So does anybody know? So that's for the party. Does anybody know about the Board of Elections?
Well, that's a job, right? That's an appointed position, isn't it?
That's like, yeah, but does somebody fill in the next person fill in until there's an election? Because that is appointed by the county legislators appoint that person, right? Is
the county legislator? I thought it was the county executive.
Okay, well, that building.
Commissioner.
One of those, that building appoints that person. So does the number two person step up until there's an election, until there's an appointment, or do they appoint the person right away?
I think they should appoint an acting commissioner.
Okay, to fill the rest of this time. Yeah. So I'm going to be finding all that stuff out because I want to know.
Yeah, and I thought as far as the Democratic committee, the co-chair or the first vice chair takes position, and then there's an election within 90 days or something like that. I thought that's how it went.
Yeah, I'm gonna find out for sure. Exactly, for sure. There's supposed to be a few other people calling in the next 15-10 minutes, and we'll see if they call it in. But I want to so what were you saying about, you said that's your wall behind you?
Yeah, so that's my wall. I put a background on the wall.
Oh, okay. But it's still your lighting game is, so I gotta get a light right here.
You gotta have three lights. Yeah, you gotta have three lights.
When I sit over on the other spot, I do have three lights, and then I have a little light that I put right next to me. But those
it's
on the
where
other
you
side.
Put them. It's where you put the lights.
Right, and they're on the other side of the room right now. So I just decided to use this background with my flag on the back.
So Diane says yes. Board of Legislators appoints.
Right.
Okay.
So that I did. So I was right about that.
Okay.
So I guess they will appoint. Yes, that's what I thought.
That makes more sense.
Thank you very much, Diane.
I want to say Diane had a very. I was listening attentively to her speech in the homegoing service yesterday, and just her last sentence kept replaying in my head. Which was, she kept saying, and you should never forget Reggie Lafayette, because I will never forget Reggie. And so she said that with such emotion that I think that was when I finished listening to the homegoing service. Actually, right after Councilman Derek Thompson sang his song during the service. That was also good. And so I'm not sure if that was before or after Diane spoke, but I know that after those two, I was done. I couldn't hear the whole thing. So kudos to everyone who worked on putting that together and was able to to put in the time for that, because that must have not been easy.
We had other people, but I don't know where they are. Diane, I sent you a link on Messenger, which is the link if you want to come on screen and say a couple of words, if you would like. Yeah. So
she had a great speech, and then Councilman Derrick sang a very nice song, and there was one other thing that stuck with me. That was what Gary Pretlow said. Gary Pretlow. Okay, she said I spoke first, and then Derrick was the last speaker. Yeah. So after that, I didn't. I guess it was the eulogy, and I didn't hear the whole speech of Morton, but there was some things that stuck with me. It was what Diane Atkins said about you should never forget Reggie Lafayette. I will never forget Reggie Lafayette. Councilman Derrick's song, and really listening to the meaning of the words, and then what Gary Pretlow said on the dash. I don't know. Well, you didn't listen to the homegoing service, but he talked about.
Yeah, I did hear about that. Like before and after, and the dash in between, and
yes,
that was one of the things that was articulated by a few people.
Yeah. So I said, I was just reading the comments. Okay,
yeah,
so
I know you weren't else. I was responding.
Yeah. So I no, he said, okay, so there's 2 dates on every tombstone. I guess when you come into life, you know that you're gonna die, right? You just don't know when. But when you see those 2 dates, for Reggie was 52 and 2022.
Yes, he would have been
so,
70 on August 18th. He would have been 70.
70. So August 18th, 52, and then now in January 2022, and then there's a dash in between the dates. So he was saying that there was a poem, and I wanted to look up the poem, that there's a poem about the dash, that everything
that's life, everything in between
everything in between is that dash. So how important that dash is. And so that just stayed with me. So those are the 3 moments that I remember.
Right. So this right now for us, everybody watching and everybody that's involved, this is our dash, right? Everything we do, this is our dash. That dash in between.
This is the dash.
This is the dash right now.
So what are you doing to make your dash better?
Right. What are you doing during the dash? Yeah. You die. You're born one day, you got no control. You die one day, you got no control. But you do have a lot of control in the dash sometimes.
On the dash.
There's some things that might still be out of control, but there's still a lot of things you can control.
It's the dash.
It's the
dash. So I think.
Shout out to Patty Dukes.
She says it's the dash. Patty Dukes. So I if you really step out of any, we know that Reggie we didn't always agree with him, but he was always kind and respectful. And if you step outside of everything and you look at his, like, say you didn't know him, right? And you were even at a class and you start reading his contribution and his positions and all that he did in the last 40 some odd years, which is why what you wrote on the paper is also important, to have everybody's comments from all the political leaders and community members who wanted to talk about and comment about what they remember about Reggie and what they felt he contributed to the community. And I'm saying, if you don't know him and you read that about him, you say, wow, that's unbelievable. Right. To actually come from South Carolina, right? And to come and to invest your almost entire life into another town, to which many times, I've said this to you before, it's like, oh man, I want to get out of here. Like, sometimes you want to get out of here, but to just sit here and invest most of your life in public service, all that time,
So he came up here in his 20s.
Yes.
Sometime in his early 20s. Yeah.
Early 20s. So from South Carolina to New York, the South was very different than the North. So I see that he would have a different appreciation for how the North had more liberties and more
Actually,
freedom.
he might have came out here before his 20 because
he's 19, wasn't he?
Yeah, he might have been 19 because at 20 he was a district leader. 72 he would have been 20, and he was a district leader.
Yeah. There you go. So to do that and to invest all that time here in New York, and then all the years that he deposited into Mount Vernon, and you look at all the people that spoke and how you would look at it, it's like, wow, that was an incredible human being. But because sometimes we get caught up in the emotions of you engage with people, you don't recognize those contributions, right? I mean, so when I see that, I said, you know what, that's a life well lived. He really dedicated a lot of his life to public service.
I thought as one of his biggest critics, and one of the only voices in African American media in the county. Shout out to the Westchester County Press, who's been doing it for over 90 years. I thought it was important for us to document this moment in history.
Yes.
And the other thing we're working on this year, like the Mount Vernon Public Library has started archiving the newspaper, and New Rochelle has committed, Pelham has committed, and we'll start working with the Westchester Library Systems to possibly any other municipalities in Westchester to have an archive. So as long as those buildings exist, and now they're moving from, like Mount Vernon Public Library is moving from that microfiche thing it was
to digital,
to digital, like MP3 or PDFs or whatever. So that made it easy. I just give it to them on PDF and JPEG. PDF. So as long as those buildings exist, even after Black Westchester is no longer,
you'll be there.
It'll be there.
And you deserve it. And you deserve it because, as I said to you before, for you and Damon Jones, like the audacity of both of you to be in a predominantly white county, or white county in power, Westchester County, Westchester County, and launch a newspaper called Black Westchester. How dare you?
Yeah, it was some. We got a lot of people that be like, "Oh, what if I made a white Westchester? That sounds racist." I was like, "You don't have to, because most media is white, so it's like you don't have to.
You don't have to,
and you have Westchester Magazine, like you don't have to."
Yeah, right.
But I say that to say that was what was going through my head with documenting and celebrating his life. And I said, as one of his biggest critics, it was my responsibility to also celebrate him,
honor him.
Celebrate him like nobody else was going to celebrate him.
Absolutely.
Hey, there's he didn't make it before, but he's here now. Former Peekskill mayor Andre Rainey, and rapper, and candidate for assembly, I think too, right?
Yes,
was it
sir.
assembly?
Yes, sir. Good evening, good people. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Aleida, my BFF, long time no nada, huh?
Long time no nada? Where the heck have you been? No show up.
Let's have another little world. Try to save the world.
Try to save the world.
AJ, what's up, man?
AJ was like, AJ's like, no, man, Andre Rainey's gonna be on. I know you were trying to get him on. I said he confirmed, and I said he confirmed. Okay, yeah, he confirmed with me too. He's gonna sleep. He's not. I can't remember why. He's got 3 kids, man. I was like, I can't remember why he didn't show up, but I know he's got 3 kids, man. I
wanted to comment before we do that. I wanted to comment. Patty Duke. So he said we was talking about that. JoJo Francis, the youth shelter of Westchester. Oh. She said, that's great, archiving the paper for the library.
Yes.
And Patty Duke said we need that documented all, like Hubert Harrison. Dr. Bob had an author at Dr. Jeffrey Perry who documented, and Hubert Harrison, who was the head of Black radicalism in Harlem back in the days, and Marcus Garvey was a mentor of his. So that's you can read about, you can go see stuff like that in Black Westchester. There's a story on that, and get the books and things. So I wanted to point that out though, and shout out to Dr. Bob and his Rise Up organization. Back to the mayor. Well, not the mayor no more. So the former mayor, and the former mayor. Okay, so the only mayor who could drop a rap record and then get Styles P from Blocks to be on it with him, right?
And get reelected.
Yeah, and get reelected.
Westchester County.
That's what I'm saying. Like, yo, they do things. And Styles P said about Jamal Bowman, he said, "Yeah, we do things a little differently here in Peekskill."
Listen, we're not afraid to try new things. That's the first thing, you know. But you know, being true to yourself is key, you know. And I think that's how I was able to meet the success I made as an elected official, you know, trying to just being true to myself and not forgetting my roots and not changing of who I am, just improving and growing.
Absolutely. So what was your memories or comments you would like to share about
the
chairman?
You know, there was one conversation that we were at a event for Mayor Sean Patterson in Mount Vernon, and I went to the event and he was there, and he came up to me. He was like, "It's a nice colored suit you got on, man. I didn't know mayors wore these colored suits." I was like,
is that the picture I posted with all the mayors?
That's that one. That's what made me think of that. That's what made me think of that. It was a burgundy suit.
Mayor, the Yonkers mayor, White Plains mayor.
Yep.
You had a burgundy suit?
I have a burgundy suit.
It's in the news. Wait, it's in the newspaper later. It's in the picture. And Reggie said,
Lord.
So, but he started a whole conversation about it. He said, "I didn't know mayors wore that color." I was like, "I didn't know we had specific colors to wear." And so he went and said, when he said that, I think what's his name, Mayor Bramson from New Rochelle and Spano, they heard him say it, and they were all laughing about it. And then when Bramson went on the mic at the podium to speak on behalf of Sean Patterson, he said, "You know, I want to thank all of the mayors that are here, you know, Spano and Patterson, and I gotta say, the suit that Mayor Rainey is wearing is absolutely phenomenal." And I was like, "Oh my God."
So he started a whole conversation.
He started the whole thing with my suit. And I was like, "You know what, from now on, when I go somewhere, I'm not wearing none of these little black and gray suits y'all wear. I'm wearing something extravagant, you know."
So all of y'all need to get a copy of the paper. That picture is in the paper.
It's in there.
Reggie with all the mayors and
Yeah, you know what? And now I remember that picture, but I wasn't talking to you then, so I didn't think you were a mayor. No, not at all. It's because of the suit.
Yeah. There you go. But I remember that because we was laughing about it the whole time. And now every once in a while when I run into them, they always look at my suit and say, "Okay, you got a normal suit on today." But he was just, he was a very positive person. We had a few conversations, not too many, but they were always inspiring conversations. You know, he always had something positive to say, and he always told one. I remember one thing he said. We were at we had an event in White Plains. There's a rally in White Plains. And he said, being in politics is about standing for what you believe in, And he said, "I haven't been up to Peekskill too much, but I'll take a trip up there, if you like me to. But whatever you do in this world, just stand on what you believe in." And I was just, I said, listen, that's probably the greatest advice anybody can give you when it comes to being into politics, because people will try to manipulate you and change you and make you believe what they want to believe. And there's party rules and party loyalty, and there's also self-belief and self-construction. And I think that, that type of advice is what kept people like him positive in my life, and I thank him for it. I'm glad to see how so many people have love and respect for him, because, you never really realize how many people you can touch and impact or inspire by what you say and do, even if it's a little 3-minute interaction or a 2-hour interaction. I think that he understood that more than most people that are more people that he got elected. I think he understands that more than they do. But I definitely appreciate, his insight, his leadership, his guidance, his support. He definitely shows support, and just his friendly personality. I never felt like I had to be somebody else around him. I was at the Yonkers Library one year for one of the breakfast meetings we had, and I was at the I was on a panel discussion. I was one of the panelists, and he was the MC of that. And he asked the question straightforward. He didn't make us feel under pressure. He didn't make us feel like we had to give a certain answer for what people wanted to hear. He just told us, listen, answer the questions with honesty, and that you have nothing to worry about if you do that. And he was right. 100% right. You know, so my condolences go to his family and friends and all of the people in the world that he's impacted, whether politically or on a personal level or both. You know, I saw Ken Jenkins' speech, and that really made me emotional just watching how, you know, because you want to remind people that we are elected officials, but we still have family and friends, you know, like.
Man, he was choking up. I was like, I don't remember anything he said. I was just.
Yeah, yeah, because, you know, you at the end of the day, when you like, I want people to feel that way about me too. That's why, like, I love, you know, that Ken did that and reminded people, like, yeah, he inspired us all in politics, but he was a friend to us.
Yeah.
He wasn't just a person helping people getting elected. He was solid. He was a friend, and that made me realize, like, man, it's that you want to be like that. You want to be remembered like that when you go, you know. And I think that was powerful. So, you know, my condolences go to his family and friends and everyone impacted by his by this loss.
Yeah,
No doubt.
that was very nice. I think you know, I don't ever hear when anybody passes that people will stand up and start talking bad about people after they pass on. I mean, like, usually you want to say something positive, right? And if I look back on anything maybe negative that could have been said, or, you know, it was based on what you just said. He really, whether people agreed with him or not, he stood for what he believed in at all times. So it's like, you know, I remember when Bush Jr. was in office, it was like, man, this dude is wrong and strong. I was like, well, but you know what? At least he believed. That's my opinion. He believed. You know, but you gain a lot of respect for.
That's what it is. Yeah,
and that's what it is.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because
you're talking to somebody. You're talking to somebody who got in trouble, who speaks his mind, and sometimes catch some flack for it. Because I've covered those stories.
I don't have a problem with it though, but, you know, but I listen. I learned that I sleep at night better. You know, we had some issues up our way where, you know, people had like rallies and they would come to the meetings. They had lawn signs and they had fundraisers and T-shirts against something that I was supporting about the homeless shelter. And I was just like, look. You know, I remember one lady came up to the podium and said, you know, you think you on your high horse, Mr. Mayor. We voted you in. We'll vote you out. And I was like, look, I understand where y'all coming from, but I sleep better if I stick with what I believe in. If I go with what y'all saying, it's going to haunt me for as long as I live, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
And the other reason I respect that too, while all the cities get 4-year terms, you only get 2-year terms in Peekskill. So like you govern for a year and then you campaign it again. Like you really don't have the time to build something like a lot of the other mayors.
Yeah, you get 1 year to change the world and 1 year to get their support after you change the world.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we made the right relationships though.
No, but if you do, well, actually, then you're doing the job, and doing the right, or doing right by your job becomes your campaign.
Yeah, there you go.
Because you only have 2 years.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it works. Yeah.
So now you want to go for another 2 years in another office?
Yeah. I'm gonna step up. You know, I didn't have the energy. You know, I was telling AJ this before too. Like I can't wait to go on AJ's show and
we're gonna get you on. We're gonna get you on.
Talk, you know. But
we're gonna get you on.
Yeah, I will say I just didn't have the energy last year to run a campaign. There was just, you know, my grandmother's sister had passed away. You know, we were dealing with some personal family issues with COVID, you know, and I just I didn't want to let the local committee down because I wasn't going to campaign like I normally campaign. Like I didn't see myself with the energy and the positive light that I normally have knocking on doors 5 days a week. I just didn't see it happening. So I let them know I wasn't going to be able to do it. And I supported Vivian all the way. And her entire ticket won. And we made it through the year. My family did good. Thanksgiving came. We had some virtual events. You know, Christmas came and the New Year came and everything just went really, really well. And you know, I got a call from Sandy Galiff just stating that she wasn't doing it. And I was just so surprised. But I was like, if I'm going to get back in, this is the time to do it. And I recognize this district, you know, this is this is local to me. So I'm going to go for it. You know, it kind of just fell in my lap almost.
So how do you and Colin, what's up with that?
Well, I mean, he had just won elected. He just won the county legislative office. I didn't expect him. I didn't think that he was going to run for the seat. Yeah. But, you know, he has the same passion I have. You know, we both believe that we can make some changes for our communities. We both believe that we're the right person for this opportunity. So, I told him I wasn't gonna step down because he decided that he wanted to step up. I got love for you, brother. But it's not gonna be like a war or a fight. It's gonna be like, okay, who's more passionate and who's more, who
No,
can
now
actually
you focus on the issues. Your friends, but you can focus on the issues.
I will have both of y'all on the state your cases, and I will ask both of y'all the tough questions. And
yeah, absolutely. Now I'll tell you now, I could rap. Now if you go crazy, I'm putting another diss track. All right.
No doubt, no doubt.
See, that's what's scary.
Yeah. Thank you for calling in, my brother. And
listen,
yeah, we're gonna do Black History stuff for next month. So starting in March when everybody's officially on the ballot, you know what I'm saying? Then I'm gonna start scheduling.
Listen, y'all keep doing your thing. This is a beautiful thing, and to show our love and appreciation to Reggie Lafayette. I want to give you two your flowers while you're here. What y'all do, the platform that y'all give us all is valuable, it's vital, it's important, and it helps people who want to succeed. So I thank you both for all that you guys are doing.
Well, thank you, Mr. New.
Thank you.
All right, peace and love, y'all. 95th District, I got you.
My brother. And we have one more person to speak. We gotta wait for her to turn on her camera. I do want to say this too, while the lady's on the air. Because people try, and they've done this all the time. People will try to pit two. If anybody's doing something similar, try to pit us against each other.
Mm-hmm.
When my brothers, brother to brother, started a Instagram radio show, it was just like they was immediately trying to put us against each other, not knowing that we down with each other. So what I'm saying, I brought them on my show to promote their show. You know what I'm saying? When Lorraine kind of left People Before Politics and started Latin Rain with her brother, you know what I'm saying? It was like, I promoted that.
Yeah, it's all love, man. It's all love.
And I used to have the flyer somewhere right there on my wall behind me, so you could see it in the background. And I tried to support, and you've been very supportive of Black Westchester. When you were taking your magazine out to Rye and Portchester and stuff where I wasn't literally going, but making sure that copies got out there. So we have to support. And the first thing people said when we started this, y'all gonna take the county press out. And I'm like, no, we stand on their shoulders. Without them, there would be no us. So I just want to show, and that's important that we do these shows like this to show, you know what I'm saying?
That's right.
We support each other and everything. Our next person to speak is Lauren Carter. Hello. Hey, Miss Carter.
Good evening, AJ. How are you? Aleida, greetings.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
I'm well. How are you? Happy New Year to everyone.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you too.
Thank you.
So I know you sat in a seat that Mr. Lafayette sat in a long, long time ago, the deputy clerk, and then I think he was clerk, right? He was deputy clerk and then clerk.
He started as city clerk. He was
okay. He started as city clerk.
He was deputy controller, and then he became city clerk.
Okay, there you go. Well, same office.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Same responsibilities. Yeah.
So what are your thoughts or memories of Reggie?
Well, first of all, my condolences once again to the family. It came as a surprise to many people. And I would just have to say that Reggie was a consummate professional. I mean, he did his duty. He did his responsibility without a lot of fanfare, which we really don't get from our public servants nowadays. He wasn't one that wanted to be in front of the camera and out in the front. He just did the work. When he was city clerk, I heard stories about how he just did the job. He sat in the office. He made sure the job was done, always referred to the charter to make sure things were being done according to the laws of the city, and always just being professional, always having an open door policy. And the same thing when he became the commissioner of the Democratic Commission of the Board of Elections. So I definitely honor him and thank him for his years of service, for being an example to the people of Mount Vernon, and also representing Mount Vernon, not just throughout the county or the state, but even nationally. He was at the inauguration for President Obama, so really representing the community in an exemplary way. So I just want to thank him for his years of service. Absolutely.
I have to say that, without the fanfare part, there were plenty of times where he got called out on things, even not by us, other people. And we would call him, and he'd be like, AJ, I'll talk to you, but he said, I'm not going on the record. He said, I'm not even going to address them. And he wouldn't even, he was like, there's no need for me to even address them. And then there was this one time, I forgot what it was. I don't remember who the person was coming after him for something. And he did 30 minutes. He gave me 30 minutes, no holds barred. He went after everybody, Damon, everybody. And I put Reggie Fights Back. And so it's on Black Westchester. And even though, and it was even, Damon's publisher and co-owner, he was taking shots at Damon. I played the whole video straightforward, but he only went on, and he says it in there. I just listened to it again the other day. The only reason he was on there with me is because people were telling him, why don't you fight back? Why don't you speak up? Why don't you, you know what I'm saying? Because he's like, yo,
Yes.
I just do what I do without the fanfare. You know what I'm saying? And he's like, people say things, and I don't need for me to address it. But that one day, he was advised, you need to speak your piece, and he did. He did. Yeah.
I would just have to add that, a lot of people may have had disagreements with him, but, because everyone is not going to agree. Let's just be honest about it. We have to be realistic. But he was one that you could communicate with about your disagreements.
Absolutely.
And do it civilly, which
Right.
is, lacking, unfortunately, in our society today.
Yeah, it's impossible to communicate, to strongly communicate your position without feeling like you're being personally attacked or vice versa. Like how can people, that's what I was talking about earlier, in conflict resolution, like you got to be, he was always able to, he had the open door policy, and you can, air your grievances no matter how upsetting it was to you. And he could just, give you a different point of view or tell you if he agreed or disagreed. And it was just no issue, right? It was about the issue. It wasn't personal.
A lot of people didn't know that. I just want to say, a lot of people didn't know that because, like, even when we were adversarial, we spoke a lot and we laughed a lot. Like when I was helping Richie Thomas get in 2015, he would be across the street at Dazzle's, at the bar, and I'd go and I find out he's there, and I walk across the street and I go sit down, and for 45 minutes we laughing and joking, and he's saying what he's saying, and I'm saying what I'm saying, and we had this civil conversation, and you would think like people thought we hated him or something, or he hated us. It was never like that, like with him at all.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lauren.
Definitely having a disagreement because, as you know, I was endorsed by the Democratic City Committee when I ran for council last year. And it was a different process. In the past, the process was that the executive committee would make a recommendation on who to nominate to the other district leaders. But last year, it was an open process. And, I know Reggie voted for me, the votes, we received the votes. So, he had the confidence that I could be a council person, knowing that, as you said before, AJ, I was in the office. I worked for the council. I knew the charter, and those are important characteristics to have. And so then when I decided to stay in the race and run on the Working Families Party line, of course, Reggie called me, but, it wasn't, like you say, adversarial. It was just a conversation, and he may have disagreed with me, but he didn't tell me what to do and what not to do. Mm-hmm. He made a recommendation, but that was that.
Yeah. You can passionately agree and disagree, and you can passionately still love your community.
Yes.
So those two can exist at the same time. I want to point out something you said about he knows that work, he knows that office, and then the fact that you were in that role and knowing the charter, and he did his work. And there was one time I was surprised when he came out and he was quoting the charter, and I remember him saying, I know this. I was a city clerk for 15 years and I know this is in the charter. And it was about when the council was trying to, I can't remember all the details now, but it was Andre Wallace and the council, and they were trying to do something. I can't remember what it was.
Right.
Yes.
So, but during that time, all the press was outside in the hallway, and I was recording and but this is wrong. Now give me a minute. I'll remember everything, but I'm not thinking about the actual thing. I'm thinking about the fact that Reggie came and left his office and came to this meeting. And while he was not really standing for a particular candidate or a particular person.
Right is right and wrong is wrong.
Yes, he was standing for
y'all are right, y'all are wrong
what
for
was
this.
Right. Yes.
That's right.
And what people don't know is after that, News 12 interviewed him and someone else, and on his way out, he called me. That's the first thing he did. He was like, you know what? I wish I'd have said this with News 12. He said, you recording me? And then he gave me the whole stuff. Like, he told me everything. He called me right after, as he was leaving. He said, and I wish I would have said this on News 12. And he called me.
Yeah. And I just remember him saying, no, I know this. I know this because this is wrong. And this is wrong. No, and I see him walking, and I can see him now walking, and he's standing there. And while everybody's talking and making their point of view, he's saying, no. And he was
very passionate about what was going on at that. Yeah. We all know, Lauren knows what he's talking about. But and we're not going to even bring all that up, but it's highly documented. But especially on Black Westchester and everywhere else. But we, he was very passionate, and it was interesting when he called me. Again, we weren't always on the greatest terms. He called me because he wanted a certain message to get out, like this is wrong and this is right, and it's not who I favor. He was like, you cannot do this. They're wrong in their actions and blah blah blah. And he wanted that message.
Yeah.
Yes, and I definitely recall the situation, the scenario you all are referencing. And yes, you're right. It was about the process. It was about the charter. It was about the state constitution, about following. That's why it's so important to have, folks that are going to follow the laws and abide by the rules, the regulations. So yeah, it was about the process. It was about what was allowed and what's not allowed, not about a person. And, he was right. I mean, the judge, basically in the decision, right? The judge, he was correct. And I remember him coming to a council meeting. I'm trying to remember if it was a committee. I don't think it was a committee meeting. I think he either he came back to the meeting or it was a Democratic City Committee meeting. I forgot which one it was, but he explained to everyone, well, it's because of this, and that, so and so and so, and put it into perspective. And he was really concerned about the optics, of the situation, how the city was being portrayed,
nationwide.
Absolutely. It was national news. I mean, we were like the laughing stock.
Yeah, we were the city with two mayors for and then we get over that, and then the council challenges, and then we got two mayors again. And the most dangerous part about that, since we only talk about, it was sad because the workers did not know who to report to. So you don't want to not listen to Richard Thomas just in case he wins, and you don't want to not listen to Andre because if he wins and you didn't listen to him, you might be going. Like, you know what I'm saying? So just they really didn't know who was their boss, and it was like some people had to take sides, and it was very difficult.
And we had three, because remember Lisa Copeland was.
Right, and then after we got past that, then you had the council, and then we were going back and forth again, and and it was like it made it difficult on the workers. So shout to the workers of Mount Vernon, especially that do their job through all of this political stuff. And they do it through different parties. And I also want to,
and you can remain sane,
right? And I also want to give a special shout out. This doesn't get done enough as far as I'm concerned. Shout out to DPW everywhere, but especially the Mount Vernon DPW with the shortfalls and the equipment issues they have. They always on their job. They all garbage. They always on their job. Like I didn't want to go outside and do my little snow. You know what I'm saying? That little snow I didn't want to go outside. They had to be outside. You know what I'm saying? For hours and hours, and they're there. They regardless of who's mayor and who's in the council, they're there every time. Garbage gets picked up unless it's a political game outside of their hands that's being played by one of the politicians. They out there and they So I want to give a big shout out to every DPW period, but specifically Mount Vernon DPW. And I want to just make sure I say that, right, so everybody can hear me. Any last words, Lauren, on Reggie or memory or anything? Or
My last words would be that he was, anyone in the community could speak to him. I mean, if you saw him on the street, I mean, he had reached some of the highest levels of
It was always approachable.
and government, and was always approachable. Yeah, always approachable. So
that's important.
We thank him for his service and the legacy that he's left.
Yes,
and even if people didn't agree with him, listen, you got to respect.
It doesn't take away the legacy. It doesn't take away
absolutely
his work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In closing, I want to say, and this is something Aleida that I've talked about before, and I want to say this while Lauren's here because she's very versed on the charter. We have to, specifically in Mount Vernon, but overall, we're talking about civics. We have to get some kind of civics training. I've covered too many stories, and that's why Reggie called me that day. You're talking about it later because he wanted to talk. He wanted to be clear on what the charter said because both sides were claiming that the charter said one thing. And in all these political fights, somebody's saying, no, the charter says this. And I don't know if all the elected officials know what the charter, like we have to, and people in the city don't know what the charter, really say. We need to have some kind of civics where even if we
even if you actually read the charter, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're interpreting correctly,
Right, interpreting, right. The
So,
interpretation of the charter is another thing. So we could do something to make more informed residents if we do some kind of civics period and some kind of like town hall breakdown and a series on breaking down the charter, like and just taking section by section. And you know what I'm saying? I think that's something our elected officials need to do. And if they don't, the organizations, our stakeholders, we need to all get together and we need to make some noise and make it happen, even if we have to do it outside of our elected officials.
Yeah,
so, and I know that's something strong that Aleida stands for a lot. And I know Lauren is definitely is big on the charter. So I want to say that with all of us on the camera.
Yes. Well, may I just say that I absolutely agree with you on that. I think that's an excellent idea. And, people need to know, for example, the budget process, right? So very important. It affects all of us.
Listen, I've been saying that for...
Okay, I'm sorry. If I see one more person say Richard Thomas' budget and the council's budget and Sean Patterson, there ain't that many budgets. There's one budget and there's not, they didn't all have a different budget and like, it doesn't work that way. It's like, I'm tired of people saying that. Like, go ahead, Aleida. I'm sorry. That's a pet peeve.
No, I wanted to say that I've been saying that for a long time. And I was going to ask Lauren where, if somebody wanted to learn the charter, besides reading it, like where do they go to do that?
Well, really, that's really the only place to learn it. I mean, that would be reading it. Unless you have a conversation with someone that may really know certain aspects of the charter. I mean, there's the constitutional makeup of Mount Vernon, and then each department has their role, their responsibility that would be outlined in the charter. So if someone has a specific question that may have to do with a particular department, then they can probably ask that department head or someone that works in that department. But other than that, it really boils down to reading it. I mean, I'm working now in the city of New York. I don't work for the city, but I work in the city, and I have to learn. I'm learning the zoning resolution and the codes and the charters and all the administrative codes of the city of New York. Much more,
comprehensive. It's a lot more
than New York, than Mount Vernon. But I have to read it. That's the way I'm going to learn.
But I say that because and AJ, I know that we have to run, but I just want to say that I've been saying this civics education for years now, and every time I try to get into it and start, everything costs money, right? It's like nothing, any initiative that you take on has to be supported by something or someone, and so oftentimes you wonder, how intentional it is for people to, for certain leadership not to want to have this type of education. So because the more you know, the more educated you are in the process, right? The stronger you become as a voter, as a community person. But when my biggest thing is, you get into the city council, and many times why you have a lot of those disagreements is because, you go in there and like, you don't know how do you do your work? Like, what is the interpretation of this and that? And it's like, who do you talk to? And there's no continuum. And so there's nowhere to go except you read it. Well, reading is good. It's a first start, but I can read it all day long. It doesn't necessarily teach me what you know, You get what I'm saying? It doesn't teach me what you know. And so I just say that to say that the importance of having that local civics education somewhere so that we don't just have to read it, but we can proactively learn it. You know,
and bring this back down to Reggie. Reggie was that for a lot of people who were running.
Yes.
And for people who actually had seats, he had to explain them the charter and where it was and tell them to read it. He was that. He was big on.
He was that encyclopedia, but we don't have that. That's not common.
And I want to comment on what you said because I do believe that certain parties, certain particular individuals that were elected officials, they did benefit from the electorate not being informed. Like and I'm not going to call nobody's names out at this point, but I've talked to them and interviewed them, and they told me there's only this small group of people that vote, and that's all they're going to. Like, they wasn't trying to expand the electorate, they wasn't trying to educate the people that didn't know. They were only concentrating on this small vote, and they said if you just concentrate on that, you'll win every time in Mount Vernon. They were trying to explain that to me 2014 and 2015, and one of the reasons Richie and Andre won in 2015, we expanded the voting pool. Like, I personally registered 205 people myself. You know what I'm saying? You know, it was just like we expanded, and a lot of first-time voters, a lot of people who had felonies, and they were all paroled and didn't know that they could vote. That's still a thing that people don't know to this day, that if you had a felony that you off parole, that you can vote. Now, even if you're on parole, you can vote. And if you have a misdemeanor, you can vote. And if you're in jail, and you can vote if you have a misdemeanor. People don't know this stuff. And these people, I registered a lot of those people. And I just, I'm glad.
More respect to Reggie for all that knowledge that he imparted to the community and to the people that, he made himself available to. So a lot of respect. He'll be sorely missed.
Yeah, and he got into me the importance of registering people too. Like we were having a conversation about people not voting, and he basically said, "What are you doing? Oh, how many people are you registering?" Basically, that's what he told me. And you know what? I went out and registered a whole bunch of people.
You want to talk about other people? I want to talk about you.
Yeah. So you need somebody to push that. But as Brenda said, it's huge shoes to fill. And she said, "Rest in peace, sir. Job well done." It's going to be huge shoes to fill, and to carry on the legacy, to take it to where it needs to go now. It's not only going to take the people that are in charge; it's going to take a lot of us, the stakeholders, the residents, the elected officials. Where we go from here is up to all of us. Like I said, it's up to all of us, and that's one of the ways we can honor him and the work that he did for going on 5 decades, like for real, like just short of 5 decades, like months short of 5 decades.
As long as I've been alive.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Well, I was 6. Matter of fact, I'll be 56. I'll be 56 on Saturday. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. So
before me. That's right, AJ. It's a week before mine. Yeah.
But
thank you, AJ.
Absolutely, Aleida. Any last words?
There's so many words that you could say, and so many things have already been said, and it still doesn't feel like enough. I think that my condolences to the family, to his kids who had to share him with the rest of the world.
Yeah, that's what we talked about in your show.
And the commitment that he gave to his work. Very few people can commit the way that he did, and I know that the family, I'm sure sometimes didn't understand, right? Like as kids, like you were saying, AJ, sometimes kids don't understand why mom or dad have to be gone so long. Yeah. But, the world is a better place because of it. There's more diversity because of him. And I think that if we are to honor him in any way, shape, or form, I think is really to really commit to our own communities. And we are in a very tough spot right now. This midterm elections, and there's this cultural war going on. And I think that we need to be unified more than ever. And we need to really be proactive in learning what's happening with redistricting and, how we get engaged and how we commit to the process. And we have to be kinder to each other while we're alive, not after we're gone. So we're going to miss him because he's like, 10 people all wrapped in one. So
yeah, it's not going to be one person to fill those shoes. It's going to have to be a collective of a few people, and we all got to work together because we're at a crucial point right now.
Yes.
And there's a vacuum right now. And if we don't fill certain positions, they will be filled by people who don't have our interests at heart. So we all need to be seriously engaging in these processes right now and paying attention to these elections. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I wanted to, along with the paper, I wanted to end this weekend with a sample size of people who loved and respected him from around the county. There was so many more people I could have got. And then, if you read the paper, there's probably like, I don't know, there's hundreds of quotes from people around the state and around the county. He was definitely well respected. Like you heard one girl just said, even Rockland County was like, yo, he was a force to be reckoned with. You know what I'm saying? Like they respected him up there too. You know what I'm saying? And he wasn't even, really, he was Westchester. But I thank everybody for tuning in. I thank everybody who celebrated this man's life and legacy this last weekend. And I'm glad we had a part of that with the newspaper and with the show. I think Aleida invited me last Monday to kick this off, this conversation on her show, that we took this next, we part 2 on this show. See you later. This is how it go with no commercials. And the other good thing is, I saw the time. But since we're not in the studio no more, going over 10, 15 minutes ain't no big deal. So like in the studio, you got to be out. Like you got to be out.
Yeah, but I love my WVOX.
No, I love VOX. I'm on there.
Yes, you're on there. Yes. But you're right. It makes a difference. Thank you, AJ, for asking me. Thank you, Lauren, for coming on, and everyone else who commented. I think it's important if we look at ourselves, how difficult it is for us to reach certain levels and certain positions. Just imagine how great of an accomplishment it is what this man was able to accomplish during the time that he started. So thank you. And Reggie, we will miss you.
And his work made it possible for all of us to do what we're doing.
Yes.
Even me, without Reggie, there's not a lot,
that's right,
opportunities for people like me to do what I'm doing too. So
that's right.
Shout out to Reginald Lafayette. Condolences to his family, friends, fans, colleagues, supporters, and, all the people he mentored, and he meant so much too. With that said, we're going to end the show. This is Black. You could be doing anything else, but you decided to ride with us, and we greatly appreciate it. This is Black Westchester presents the People Before Politics radio show. We're on every Sunday night, 6 to 8, streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And until next week. Oh, also look out for the Reginald Lafayette commemorative issue is out right now. If you need copies, contact me. And we're following that up with the instead of doing a Black History Month issue, we're doing a Black to Business issue.
Nice.
Celebrating and highlighting as many businesses, Black-owned businesses as we can in Westchester County. If you have a of course, I don't know all of you. So if you have a Black-owned business and you want to be listed, it's free to be listed, but just to be regularly listed, but you can advertise for a bigger space. But if you send me your information, name, contact information, social media, whatever, to blackwestchester@gmail.com. And even if you're not a business owner, but you want to make sure your favorite Black-owned businesses are listed, please email us and send us that. And you have another week to advertise in that issue. That'll be out somewhere around the 15th, 16th, 17th, somewhere around there. So until next week, peace.
Peace. Thank you, AJ. Good night, everybody.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Lauren.
Thank you for having me on.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Later. Bye, AJ.
Bye.
You are now tuned into the People Before Politics radio show Brought to you by the good folks at
Black Westchester. Black Westchester. Black Westchester. Black Westchester. Check the newspaper. Black Westchester. Black Westchester. Black Westchester. Check the newspaper.
Real talk for the community since 2014.